No, this is, we are in the home of Mr. Henry Burkhardt, 5802 North Poinsettia in West Palm Beach. And the day and date are Tuesday, the 27th of February, 1962. It is 10 o'clock in the morning. Mr. Burkhardt, you are indeed one of the pioneers here. When did your family come here?
They come here in 1893, January 1893.
And from where?
From Camden, New Jersey.
Your father and mother?
The whole family come as a whole in 1893.
And how many of you were there?
There was my mother and father and 4 youngsters.
And you had how many brothers and sisters?
I had 2 brothers and 1 sister.
Well, now, when you came here in 1893, you were just a shaver, weren't you?
I was just nothing but just a little bit of boy.
How far do you go back in your memory to this area?
Well, as far as I know, I go back to remember when living at Lantana, which was our first home. I fell off a dock and was on the verge of drowning when I was rescued by our neighbor.
Oh, who was your neighbor?
Our neighbor was Tom Ernest.
Swimming was a big thing in those days, huh?
Oh, yes.
And fishing?
Fishing, it was common occurrence to row out in a boat and come home with 2 or 3 pompanos or other fish that might jump in.
Now, Mr. Burkhardt, everywhere I go, I try to verify this story. I have been told time and time again in this area in the early days that it was possible just to bang on the side of a boat and fish would jump in. Is that true?
Well, I hardly think that is quite true. Although at night, if you towed a boat with a lantern in it, a pompano would jump in the boat.
Pompano would jump?
Yes.
But not if you just banged it on the side?
Not necessarily. That's only maybe when the fishermen are casting the nets around them and bang on the side to scare them into the net. They might jump anywhere.
Was the fishing good in those days, huh?
Very good.
Well, now let's go back a little farther. Let's go back to the early reminiscence of your father. I think you have the benefit of some of his reminiscences, haven't you?
I have.
Well, tell me about those.
Well, of course, in the early days, my dad was a cabinet maker in Philadelphia. His brother, having preceded him down here in this part of the Florida, due to the warm climate, and my mother was on a sickly list, as we say, and the doctor had informed my father from the letters that he had from his brother here in Florida it would be an ideal place to take my mother if he wanted to have her another year.
Your uncle had already preceded him?
Oh, yes, 1885, I believe.
And where did he live?
First lived up on the Indian River, then moved down to the Lake Worth area after the freeze of '88.
Now, your mother was brought here then in order to recuperate.
That's right. And during that time, after a couple of years here, my grandmother come down to visit. And she was so much surprised that my mother was out in the yard chopping wood. And she wasn't expected to live another year. So the early days of cooking out under umbrella at times, had no stoves, of course, and that helped to bring back her health.
They just cooked with wood fires?
Just wood fires in the early days until we were able to get a stove later, because everything was so primitive down here that you couldn't buy what you wanted. It wasn't a question of whether you had the money, you just couldn't buy.
Well, now where do they get the wood? Just cut it off the land?
No, this wood happened to be there was a Lyman company at Lantana who had a store. And he bought enough flooring from him to make a floor for about 20 by 30 shack, in other words. And it was, the sides of it was canvas, and the top was thatched roof of palmettos, and that's what we lived in for about a year down there before coming up to the lake.
Where did your family learn to thatch a roof? From the Indians? Were there Indians here then?
From my uncle and the Indians.
I see. Your uncle had the head start, huh?
Oh, yes, he had. Incidentally, this land at Lantana, my uncle had bought the property for my father in 1892.
At Lantana.
So we had a place to squat, in other words.
Well, now, before you landed on this wood-floored tent, How did the family get down here? What was the transportation?
Now, the transportation coming down from Philadelphia, which was the starting point, was by train to Titusville. From Titusville to Jupiter. From Jupiter over the Celestial Railroad to Juneau. Then the family stopped for a couple of days up at the place here, which is, I believe, Oak Lawn was the name of the place. And then my uncle, who had a boat, which is Sharpie type of boat, hauled us on down to Lantana.
You could get down as far as Juneau in those days by rail. This is 1893.
No, you had to come by boat to Juneau, Jupiter.
Oh, well, where did the Celestial Railroad come into it?
From Jupiter to Juneau.
Oh, I see. Titusville to Jupiter by boat.
Yeah.
And then the Celestial Railroad.
Yes.
How in the world did that thing ever come into being? Do you know?
Well, I don't know. I think Flagler was one of the instigators of getting it there, because at that time we didn't have a canal between here and Jupiter. So they had to haul it over either by ox cart or by whatever conveyance they had. And of course he built that to get his lumber for the Ponciana, the building of the Ponciana.
Oh, that was put into effect so that he could have the hotel,
Yes,
huh?
yes.
Mhm.
That's right.
And this was before his railroad came all the way
Before
down
his
the coast.
railroad come down, because his railroad didn't get into West Palm Beach until 94.
Now, what were the other stops on that line? There was Jupiter and Juneau, both celestial spots.
If I can remember right, there's Jupiter, Juneau, Venus, and Mars. I believe that's right.
4 stops, huh?
That's what Juneau, of course.
Was this also on the days of the barefoot mailman, or did?
Oh yes, that was continued, because I believe the mailman quit in '93, if I'm not mistaken. And incidentally, my uncle, whom I'm named after, was one of the last to walk the beach. They skirted the water a good bit.
Mm-hmm.
And of course they walked barefoot, but their feet were toughened to. In the early days, and actually a lot of people did go barefoot on account of saving their shoes for a Sunday best or something. And they built up a gait that they could walk for hours that way and never get tired, because they were accustomed to it. And therefore, if an individual wanted to go to Miami with them, or Lemon City, I believe it was, they could go, but he'd charge them a fee for going with him, because he'd have to stop and wait for them.
I see. They couldn't keep up, huh?
They couldn't keep up, even with his slow, steady gait.
Well, did he sometimes escort people down from?
Oh, yes. Of course, there was no heavy loads. There was mostly mail matters that went down. It didn't seem to get newspapers like we do today.
Even crossing those inlets, however, must have been a problem with the guest.
Well, they had their boats down at Little River, and of course that was government property. And when he tied up from one trip, it better be there when he gets back to the next trip.
Mm-hmm, I see.
And that was his boat, and nobody should touch it. Although once in a while they did have to swim when somebody would use the boat with no permission.
And I suppose sharks and alligators sometimes accompanied them.
I think that it was alligators or sharks more than alligators, because of salt water. Alligators don't live very much in salt water. They may go in, but they don't live in salt water. They're mostly freshwater animal or brackish water.
Well, now let's get with the Burkhardt family in their wood-floored tent in Lantana. What kind of food did your mother cook for you?
Well, my dad in the early days, while I say he was a cabinet maker in there, but he and his brother opened an eating place over on the point where Mr. Flagler's museum, or historical station, is now located. He had an eating place over there, and of course we was all right for food as far as that concerned, because there's the Hendricksons and other boats that bring things in, that we had plenty of food. We didn't have to worry. And then, of course, we had lots of vegetables.
Did the trade boats come down this far in those days?
No, they didn't come down this far.
They cut off at Jupiter.
Cut off at Jupiter. And, of course, what boats did come in was a little shallow inlet that they dug from time to time. And on very high tides, these schooners could come in with a load of material, which Mr. Henriksen and Mr. Moore and several others who had boats that went to Jacksonville for supplies.
The inlet wasn't natural, it was man-made, was it?
It was man-made, yes.
All along this coast, it seems, they had to make their own
All
inlets.
along the coast they made them. Originally, as I understand it, this water out here was a brackish freshwater lake, and it didn't have salt in it. Although there's enough brackish in it, it wasn't salty.
Did you get lots of fowl, wild fowl?
Plenty of fowl anywhere you wanted to go hunting. It wasn't a question of finding them, just kind of shooting them.
What other animals were around?
Well, mostly deer, panthers, wildcats, of course rabbits, squirrels, most all the regular run of them. And I guess if you was an ardent hunter, why, you'd find lots more if you went out in the woods.
I suppose a boy in those days was practically born with a gun in his hands, wasn't he?
Well, that's about the way it had to be. Incidentally, when we first established the house down at the Lantana, our nearest neighbors was a tent with some Indians in it, possibly 40 or 50 Indians, and they used to come over and bother us, and not savage or anything, but just acquaintance and wanted to know this and that and the other one. The women folks never bothered, but the men folks were the ones that would ask questions and so forth.
Did you ever trade with them?
Oh, yes. Trade with them all the time. We have one here now that the Billy Bullleg III.
Oh, yes.
He used to come in our place of business and trade.
Is that so?
Yes.
Did they bring you game, wild game, too?
They would. They bring venison mostly.
What kind of a gun did you have?
Well, mostly we had little 22s.
Regular short ammunition or long?
One shot.
One shot.
One shot at that.
Who made those guns?
I think they made by Smith & Wesson.
Smith & Wesson.
I believe that's right.
Well, they've been in the business a long time, haven't they?
I've been in business a long time. Now, it might have been Colts, I don't know, but then it was...
And what about fishing? What did you use for pole and bait?
Well, in those days we used mostly hand lines, or else used bamboo poles.
And in those days you didn't have any fishing license to worry about, did you?
We don't have no fishing license to worry about. We could fish anywhere. The only thing is that you get to fish.
Where did you first go to school down here?
We went to school at the corner of Dixie and Poinsettia.
In Lantana?
In West
Palm?
In West Palm Beach. See, we was only down there a year.
In Lantana?
And then they had a house up here, and we moved up in '94.
How'd you get to school?
Well, in those days, we did like anybody else. We walked.
And did your mother pack a lunch for you?
We had lunch, and in our case, we was close enough to school, we come home for lunch.
Do you remember the name of your first teacher?
That I'm not sure, but I believe it was Mrs. George Lyman.
And did you go all the way through all of the grades at that school?
No, I missed it. Folks being in business in early days, why, they didn't think it was particularly necessary for me to keep going on to school, and business was all, why, making money was more interesting than going to school.
So you went into business, huh?
I was in my father's business.
Well, what was your first job?
Well, in the grocery store as clerk. And that's there until after the First World War I, which I am a veteran of. And then when I come back, I went into the electrical trade, and that's what I've been in ever since.
How did they get their supplies for the grocery store? Where did they come from? In by boat? All
in by boat. Of course, by '94 the train was in, so it made it a little easier for getting supplies.
Well, now, in those days, in 33 and 34, or 93 and 94, you didn't have any refrigeration, did you?
We had nothing but ice boxes.
And where'd the ice come from?
That would come from Jacksonville.
Down by train, huh?
By train, in sawdust. And I believe some would come from Titusville, I'm not sure.
And where'd you get the meat?
Well, that meat also come in that way, and that was fresh meat, of course, a lot of time butchered right here.
And people standing in line to take it home?
Not necessarily. Mr. Will Whidden, who was the earliest settler here, he had a butcher shop. And of course there'd been several other butcher shops in the meantime.
Do you recall what the price of things was in those days? For example, what was a pound of steak worth?
Well, I imagine a pound of steak in those days around 20 cents.
And that would be good steak, too.
Practically any of it. It's just figured so much a cow when they butchered it up, I think.
And divided it by pieces, huh?
Not as much as by weight as they used to, or they do now. Everything is weight.
Yeah.
I know we sold fruit and that stuff by the dozen or by the peck, whichever it happened to be the quantity of. Of course, while like potatoes were sold by the peck, although we knew a peck was 14 pounds, but we never sold them by the pound.
And the fruit came from around here, all grown here, was it?
Mostly, yes. Oranges and grapefruit and vegetables of all kinds, even the early strawberries they had here.
And I suppose the women folk did a lot of canning.
Well, yes and no. They didn't. The trouble is, so many of these folks, they wasn't farmers.
Mm-hmm.
They just people who was getting out and exploring. And of course, the farmer don't usually do that. He stayed on his farm and handled his crop. So these people were mostly depending on other people, although they did do their own baking and everything like that. And of course, did do some canning, but not extensively.
And you speak about baking. You remember the homemade bread still? Do you still?
Oh, yeah.
Can you still smell it when you think of
yeah.
homemade bread?
Well, incidentally, talking about homemade bread, as I said, was raised in the grocery store, and when they went in service, the first thing I know, I was put in the bakery department.
Did people buy staples in large quantities, barrels of flour?
Yes, they bought what we known as half barrels of
Half
flour.
barrels.
Yes, and sugar, of course, was 20 pounds for $1, and grits was 3 or 4 cents a pound. Bacon, white bacon, or as known as sow belly, that was 12 and 10 cents a pound, and all those staples were it.
Sow belly was solid, wasn't it?
Yes. Of course, hams were there. I forget just what the price of hams were, but you'd buy a ham for around $1 or whatever, $1.50, something like that.
What was the favorite dish your mother made for you?
Well, being a family affair in the grocery store was kind of hard to say.
Mm-hmm. You could get anything you wanted.
You got anything you wanted. So there wasn't any particular thing of it. Although I do miss some of the cooking.
Think the cooking was better then than now?
Not necessarily, but I enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like everything else. Things change with age as well as anything else. The taste is the same thing. In other words, they may not taste as good now if I went back as I think they did. Still had wood stoves in those days. You didn't have any. It's just a question of course, there's the wood stove. When you go back to it, with the exception of having to stoke it with wood all the time to keep it hot, the electric stove resembled the wood stove because you didn't have to have air for the oven. It was closed heat, and you got really nice cooking out of an oven.
Did your mother make a whole raft of bread at a time?
Not necessarily. I'll go in the store, and if there we did do. There's quite a demand for guava jelly, and she used to make hundreds of yards of guava jelly during the season. Mm-hmm. Of course, it's like the English with their marmalade.
Mm-hmm. What about clothes? Where did clothes come from?
Well, clothes was mostly made, and that by 94 we had 95, 96 we had stores in here. So Anthony's and Srebnick's and several of them. I can't name all of them. I should be able to name them, but I don't.
Well, the women who made clothes, did they make them by hand, or was the Singer sewing machine in existence even then?
Yes, they had sewing machines.
Hand operated?
Yeah, well, some of them were, but mostly treadle, yes. And
so the Singer's always been with us.
It's always been with us. Singer's an old hand. In fact, I had one not long ago. I got rid of one that my mother had.
Do you think that the cloth from which clothes were made in those days was better than we get now?
Well, of course, it was mostly cotton.
Mm-hmm.
And it was very tough and was made for service.
And were clothes handed down from child to child?
In some instances, yes. Most of the girls, because most of the boys, they're roughnecks, they'd use them up before they had a chance to hand them down.
And I presume they didn't put shoes on the boys because they wore out too fast.
Well, the only shoes we had was not a question of wearing them out. We didn't want them summertime because our feet was tough anyway, and so the only time we wore them was in the wintertime. And usually by the time this winter, if we had a pair of shoes, but next winter, they was too little.
How, at what age did you get a bicycle?
Oh, I guess I was 12.
And were the roads, could you ride on them?
Well, there were sidewalks, which was wooden sidewalks. We rode on those, and lots of places we had no business riding, and had bicycle trails.
Oh, they did?
Oh, yes. Down the lakefront up to Mangonia, they had bicycle trails, and down the south end, they had bicycle trails. You see, the original property of the original West Palm Beach run from Althea Street, which is now 2nd Street, down to Fern Street. That was the original town width of the north and south. And from there on, they had bicycle trails down to the lakefront.
Now, which came first, Palm Beach or West Palm Beach?
Well, as far as the settlement concerned, West Palm Beach is behind Palm Beach because the settlement was everything on the east shore of the lake.
Oh, originally it was all on the east shore of the lake.
Yes, and where we're sitting now, at 5800 along up in here, was known as the Lake Worth Post Office.
I see.
And then later on, they had another little post office with Mr. Brelford, I believe. And they called it at that time Palm City. And then they finally come up when he was making an arrangement with the government for the establishment it. They found out that there were other Palm cities, so they changed it to Palm Beach.
Oh, I see. But now, is it true that the palms on Palm Beach were planted as a result of a shipwreck?
Well, I don't know. It just makes a good story.
It makes a dandy, and of course, it's quite coincidental that the people who planted them knew exactly where Palm Way was going to be,
oh, sure.
And all of the rest of the streets were going to be.
Well, I think Mr. Hammond and Mr. Lanehart, Will Lanehart, is responsible for a lot of the coconut trees of the early days because they were down between the present Palm Beach area and the Croker place. They was in there somewhere, and they had homesteads, of course, of several hundred acres of stuff, and was regular beachcombers.
What about transportation other than bicycles? Were there horses and automobiles and buggies?
Horses and buggies and trucks, of course. Now, even the undertaker, then he had a body to take to the cemetery. He had to hire a dray to take it.
Oh. Where was the cemetery located then?
The first cemetery is located down where Norton Gallery is.
Oh, really?
And now, of course, that was mostly done by boat. They take you down there. They had a long dock out the lake, and it was a good half day or more to bury a body.
Now, originally, then, if they were...
No, I'm sorry about the cemetery being original. I'm sorry. The first cemetery is on the corner of Clematis and Dixie on the southwest corner.
Oh.
Afterwards, where the schoolhouse was built, and then later it became the county courthouse.
Well, now, what happened when this area was taken over by schoolhouse and courthouse? What happened to the bodies that were buried there? Were they exhumed and reburied?
Yes, they were all, everyone who was now, of course, in all cemeteries, there are some bodies there that they didn't get up.
Mm-hmm.
And as kids going to school there, we wouldn't drink the water because it was pump water because it was a cemetery.
Did you whistle going by the cemetery?
Not very much. Then it was moved down to where Norton Gallery is.
And then it was all done by boat, huh?
That was done by boat in there.
Must have been quite a ceremony. Did everybody follow along in boats of their own?
Well, they had their boats, the sailboats and roll boats. It wasn't very far. Of course, it might have seemed far, but it wasn't very far. And then, of course, then...
What was church life like in those days?
Church life was they had the congregational church. Also, they had a church over in Palm Beach, which still exists. The building does, and that was non-denominational. That was Mr. Flagler put that up for his guests so they could have a church to go to. Although we had the Bethesda, which is up here on the lake, and we did go there. And then they had the Episcopal Church built down on Lavernia and Dixie, and our family used to go there.
Did you have regular Sunday schools?
Regular Sunday school.
Who taught the Sunday schools?
Well, Mrs. Parkinson, her name was Mrs. Parkinson. My dad, I think he taught Sunday school. Well, anyway, he was treasurer. And a funny instance, as youngsters, why, we'd take our pennies to church to give to God. Then the next day, my brother and I would see my dad with the pennies and wondered how he was going to get them to God.
Did he ever reveal the secret to you? Never did. Well, Mr. Burkhardt, this is most interesting. Do you have any recollections of your early days that we haven't talked about yet? Or of your father's early days?
Well, of the early days, now I can answer this. We had the Rowley girls, as we call them, and we used to get a gang together and take the 8:15 train, go down to Boynton to a dance, and of course take our bicycle, and after the dance we'd ride home after the dance.
From Boynton?
From Boynton.
Well, that was quite a ways, wasn't it?
Well, only 12, 14 miles. Because a bunch of us cutting up and laughing, that didn't make any difference.
That was your general form of entertainment, was dances? How about picnics?
Well, we had picnics, of course, all the time. On the lake, and boating, and fishing, of course, was our general.
Speaking of entertainment, in a community of that sort in those days, somebody was always playing the piano. Did you have a piano in your family?
Oh, yes. My dad brought the old square piano down with us on the boat.
Oh, really?
Yeah, all the way down there, and then when he got installed down there at Lantana, the Indians found out that there was a piano there, and Mother played. They used to worry her to death about playing the piano at all times of days and nights.
Well, now, exactly what kind of music was Indian music? What music did they want to play?
They didn't want Indian music.
No, I know, but what kind of music did they like to hear?
Oh, any of the music. It didn't make any difference to them. It was just something different that they hadn't been accustomed to.
Who in the world kept that piano in tune?
Well, it kept itself in tune pretty well.
You mean after fashion?
After fashion.
What are some of the songs you remember best?
Well, they played the song, the one I remember most is Alan Ben Bolt.
Well, you do go back a piece, don't you, huh?
Well.
How about walking? Did you do any hiking in the woods around here?
Well, the mother used to take us three, which was myself and brother and sister, and we'd go out in the woods walking and explore and see what we could see.
Did you ever have any run-ins with animals that chased you anywhere?
Well, at one time I'd been told about rattlesnakes, and I was hollering, snake, snake, and all of a sudden they rushed out there and a big rattlesnake was right there in front of me.
Oh, and what did you do?
Well, I didn't know what I did. I guess I run.
You mean when you came to, you were some distance from there?
I'm afraid so.
Well, I can understand how you might take off. I remember my first rattler myself.
Of course, later years when I was quite older, why, we used to hunt and shoot them.
Mm-hmm. Your father down here, he got to be quite a power in the community, didn't he?
Well, I don't know power, but he was quite prominent in different things, in the corporate in the city, and being mayor of the city, councilman.
He was mayor of West Palm Beach?
Mayor of West Palm Beach.
During what years? What form of city government did they have? Did they have a commission?
They had what they call council form.
Mr. Burkhardt, as you recall it, in those days, did the councilmen wrangle among themselves as much as they do now?
Well, I guess so, but we didn't hear so much about it. In other words, the newspapers wasn't so nosy at that time.
There was a newspaper here then?
Oh, yes. The Tropical Sun, and also Bodine,
Oh.
and it was the Lake Worth News.
And this was your whole form of information.
That was,
Okay, Mr. Burkhardt, it's been most interesting to talk to you, and I want to thank you very much. Is there anything more that you recall that you want to talk about?
well, not that I would like to say this. Well, after my father brought my mother here for her health, it was in 1939 before she left us.
Oh, well, the Florida climate was good for her, wasn't it?
That's right. And of course, I lost him a couple of years later, in 41.
And you have been in the electrical business a long time now.
Quite a while. Although I'm on the retired list now, I quit.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Do you think retirement is a good idea?
Well, I think so in some instance. When you get to be 72, well, you ought to have some rest. Let the other younger fellow do the crawling around.
I must ask Mrs. Burkhardt, what happens if a fuse goes out? You can still change a fuse, can't
Oh,
you?
yes, we don't have any trouble. I'm mechanically inclined, so we don't have any trouble.
Okay, thank you very
All
much.
right,
Thank
thank
you.
you.